everybody, I'm Bo.
And I'm Jamie.
And this is the only podcast that continually asks the question, hey Jamie, what you watching?
I have been watching not as much as I normally would. And it's because last time we talked, I told you I was all sucked into Boardwalk Empire.
Yeah.
So I had to finish that. I did, yeah.
What'd you think? How'd you end up with it?
It ended okay. The ultimate ending was kind of what I expected it to be, but who was responsible for the ultimate ending was a badass twist that I was just like, what? Like it was pretty good. I will say, did you watch The Sopranos?
I watched some of The Sopranos. I didn't watch the whole thing, but I watched the last 2 seasons. I didn't watch the early stuff, weirdly.
Okay, the early stuff is actually the better stuff.
That's what I hear.
That's what I was going to say is that I think a lot of shows this happens to, where it starts out really strong and then toward the end I won't say it petered out because it was still really, really good, and I still love a lot of the characters, and I was really upset. It's one of those shows where anybody can die at any time, like you just don't know what's going to happen. And so a lot of people that you like will end up, and they have several bits throughout the series where you're just like, motherfucker, like you just don't see it coming. And what I though discovered was that like the first couple seasons were really, really strong, really mapped out. And then particularly the last season, it felt like they were just speeding through it, because like in the first bit, it was the very first episode of the show is the night that Prohibition started. So it starts at the very beginning of Prohibition. And then like season 2 is like a year later. Season 3 is like another year later. So it kind of stretched out. By the time they get to season 5, which I also discovered there was a 5th season. I thought there were only 4, but there were 5. And by the time the 5th season rolled around, then they're just like, they jumped ahead like 10 years. It's now in the 30s. It's like, it's almost like, oh, holy shit, we're out of time. We got to squeeze a whole bunch of shit in, So it feels, the pacing is different. And it doesn't feel the same, but it's still really good. It just is different. And that's kind of how I felt about The Sopranos too. It just felt like once you hit like season 4 with The Sopranos, it just starts to have a different feel all around. So whereas something like, I think like Breaking Bad which was very mapped out, like before they even did anything with it, everything was completely mapped out, and you can feel it. It's everything is very evenly paced and very, very evenly spread out. It almost feels like with this show, they didn't know until like maybe the end of the 4th season that they only had 1 season left. And then and I don't know the history. I have no idea, but that's what it feels like, is that someone told them, hey, you've got 1 more season. And they're like, fuck. So they just shoved everything together. But I don't know, it's still totally worth a watch. I really, really enjoyed it. And I would watch it again, like give it a few years, and then I'd go through it again, because I thought it was just that good. So
yeah, I told you the last time we talked about this, that's one of those, like, if I ever break my leg, or let's be honest, a hip, and have to, lay around for a while and just recuperate, that feels like something I could get into. I'm trying to think of the show that someone else recommended recently that was in that same boat of like, hey, it's 5 seasons of really good television, and I just don't have the time for it, Jamie. I just can't. I
understand.
I want to. I want to be lazy and just sit around and watch TV. And I'm not implying that you're lazy and sit around and watch TV. I'm saying to get through an entire series.
No, I was being lazy. I flew through the entire series in like a month. Like I was watching 4 and 5 episodes a night. It was just right. Brian's like, you want to watch another one? Yes. Like, why are you even asking me? Yes.
So my lady friend and I watched I'm just going to piggyback on your TV thing for a hot second. Mm-hmm. And we watched the very first episode of Sandman on Netflix, and she's really into kind of fantasy and Neil Gaiman stuff. And I've read a little bit of Sandman, not a ton, just a little bit. But I thought it was like, oh, this would be cool. I'm kind of curious how this goes. But the idea was like, oh, we'll watch this show together. And we still might. But we watched an episode a week ago and haven't had time to go back to it. But it was really good. Like, the first episode's quality, and I don't know how the rest of the season is, but I've heard good things. But that first episode I can easily recommend, because it felt very, very literary. It felt like it was, like reading the first chapter or even the prologue of a very good book. And, as I said, it has that kind of fantasy vibe to it, but it's sort of the, not sword and sorcery fantasy, but just more of a dark fantasy kind of thing. Like Eyes of the Dragon is the example I would give, because I'm just a Stephen King nerd and that's the dark fantasy I know. But it doesn't have, I mean, it's set in relatively modern day. Like the first episode is in the 1930s, I want to say, is where it begins. And I'll give you the setup because the setup's kind of cool. So there are gods that exist, and one of them is named Dream. He is the god that's responsible for dreams, as you might imagine. And he it basically designs the world of dreams and allows people to live out their fantasies and have their nightmares and that kind of thing. So he's just responsible for all that stuff, building this kingdom of dreams. And the one of the assholes from Game of Thrones is an old man whose son was killed in World War I and has spent a number of years gaining this, eldritch knowledge to essentially kidnap Death. And the idea is that he is going to kidnap Death and hold him hostage for the return of his son. But the spell is a little non-specific, so he doesn't get Death, he gets Dream. And he keeps Dream locked up for decades. And anyway, so there's this, these nice little touches of like, well, everybody responds to this differently. Some people don't dream at all. Some people go into a coma and can't escape their dreams. And this goes on for years and years and years. But it's more personally a story of this guy who just refuses to let Dream go. And his son, who basically inherits this big glass cage. It's almost like the Magneto cage from X-Men that they keep him in. Mm-hmm. And so the question is, like, will this more sensitive son let Dream go when the time comes? And if so, does Dream wreak his revenge? Because, this is still a god. And Dream does not say anything for all these decades. He just sits there silently brooding, waiting for the moment when he's free. And but anyway, it's really cool. It's like this interesting story, and it traffics in the worlds of myth and gods and that kind of thing, but it's a little bit different take on that stuff, and it's really well acted, and it's got great atmosphere and all that stuff. So I had a great time, and I look forward to watching more of it. We just haven't yet.
I saw the trailer for it. It looked good, so it is on our list. You know how that goes, but it's there. We plan to watch it. So I'm excited to hear that you liked it. So that's good.
Yeah, it's cool. And I'm going to read American Gods. In fact, I'm probably going to start it tonight, which is another Neil Gaiman joint. And I've never read that. I haven't read a lot of Gaiman, and I hear people all the time talk about what a great writer he is. And I'm just going to find out for myself. And all right, I know it's your turn. Let me say one other thing, and I will recommend this to you and everyone. If you want to read something that will make you feel terrible, I know how much you enjoy that. Mm-hmm. There is, I've been reading a bunch more. Like I've read this book called Dead Silence that was this kind of Event Horizon style book that was a little bit disappointing. It was okay, but it takes a turn that I didn't care for. And then right after that, I read Tender is the Flesh. And Tender is the Flesh, I can't think of the woman's name who wrote it. She's I think a Mexican author. Anyway, so here's the premise, Jamie. That in the future, there is a virus that hits that is passed among domestic animals. Like, dogs and pigs and cows and ducks and all the domestic animals. That makes their flesh poisonous to people. And so human beings then are forced into the uncomfortable position to replace domestic livestock with people.
Oh.
And
wait, that's immediately what they jump to? There's no other
pretty quick. Yeah. Well,
we could go vegetarian.
Well, yeah. No, it's kind of allegorical. Like a lot of it is about like, here's how we treat livestock and that kind of thing, and also sort of how we treat the poorest among us. So there's some allegory there, but it's like people who are raised from birth to be special meat is what they call it. And but it's not very long. It's the read is a couple hours maybe, and it goes into a lot of detail of how all of this functions and how people are treated who are the special meat and how other people respond to it. But the government jumps on board real fast because what happens is some people start killing just poor people and homeless people and eating them, and the government's like, whoa, we can't have people just run out in the streets and eating people, but have you thought about eating some people that we grew for you? And
ooh, that sounds disturbing. I love it.
It's super dark. The ending is a gut punch, and it doesn't end the way you think it's going to end. Like there's part of you as you're reading it that's like, oh, and the main character is a guy whose job is to buy these human livestock from breeders to take to the slaughterhouse that he works for. And so but he doesn't eat the special meat is kind of the gig. And anyway, like I said, super dark. Can't recommend it enough. If you don't read it, if you want to feel good about you or about yourself, about the people around you, about the government, anything, just the state of the world today, if you want to feel good about any of that stuff, avoid it. But if you want to wallow in a fairly grim, gory sort of morality play, then Tender is the Flesh is pretty good. So,
well, you know me. You sold me.
Yeah. So
I will track that down.
Yeah. So anyway, enough of reading. That's not what we're here for, Jamie. Who cares about book learning?
I do. Well, I have one more super quick TV thing to mention, because I think you'll get a kick out of it. I don't know. Have you watched any of the new season of American Horror Stories that just came out?
I have never seen American Horror Stories, but again, that's one of those things I have on the list of, hey, if I had the time, I would really like to watch this, but hit me.
Okay. There is a particular episode that sort of crosses the witch trials with smallpox. And I think, just being as nerdy as I am, I think you'll get a kick out of it like I did. But the central character is a milkmaid. Mm-hmm. And she is the one who discovers that milkmaids are not getting smallpox because of cowpox, and which is for anybody who's not a dork, that actually did play into how the vaccine for smallpox was discovered. So I'm watching this, and of course this is way back, so well before the actual vaccine for smallpox was discovered, and this was a woman, and so clearly there's a reason that it didn't get discovered until it did, even though the answer had been found by a woman previously. Now, this is all fictional, but it's it was so funny because when I was watching it, and they're like, oh, I'm a milkmaid. And I was just like, I see what you did there. Like before they even like went anywhere with it, I was like, I know exactly where this is going. And it had one of those Romero the Crazies endings, with like with the discovery and all of that. And it was just, I love the way they wove it in. I love the way they sort of took the real life horror of smallpox, the real life horror of witch trials, kind of blended them together. And then we got this, and I will admit, there were a couple of lines that were a little bit ham-fisted, but it was so on the nose that it was hilarious, because she discovers that, the cowpox is around, and then the cattle that have cowpox, or the milk cows that have cowpox, their udders are bleeding. So the milk with the tainted milk is actually vaccinated milk. So she takes it to this kid and she's like, here, drink this milk. And then he's like, no. They've discovered that if you dig up a dead person who had been infected and carve out their heart and eat it, that will protect you. Because again, we're talking about, the time of the witch trials where people were fucking idiots. But she's like, what? And she's like, drink your milk. And he's like, even if I get sick, I'll be fine. I'm strong. I'm young. And she's like, you could end up hurting someone else who can't, who
Right.
isn't strong, who won't survive this. Yeah. And then he's just like, no, I don't think I want to do it. And then she just grabs him and she starts pouring it. And she's like, drink the fucking milk. And she pours it down his throat. And I was just cackling because I was like, that was so on point. Like, it was so clear what they were doing that I just was dying. But in a good way, like I was having fun with it, and clearly they were too, but it was, I was like, wow, like you could have been more on the nose about what you were trying to say. So subtlety is not necessarily the strong point there, but it was entertaining. I thought it was a very entertaining episode, and I like the way that they blended the things that they did. I thought it was very smart. But anyway, that's it. We watched probably 5 episodes, I think, or however many are out. And that was probably my favorite one of all of them. Just like any anthology, they're going to be hit and miss. Some of them were just like, well, that was dumb. And some of them were like, that was really cool. So, mileage will vary. But I particularly loved that episode just because it was all nerdy and talking about shit that I love, so.
I'm so glad you brought this up. Not because I have seen that, but because it goes so well to transition into the thing I'll bring up next, okay, which is a movie called The Field Guide to Evil.
Oh, wait a minute. Is that an anthology?
It is an anthology.
And it's all female-centric?
Mostly.
Okay, and really like shorts. Like a bunch of them, like 80 of them.
Yeah, there's like 8. Yeah, there's 8 of them, I think.
Okay,
and
I saw that.
Okay, because there's what reminded me. Not only did I have it on my list, but the reason I'll bring it up now, because it also featured a story where a guy is digging up corpses to eat their hearts.
That's right.
Yeah, they're the one that was from Poland, I want to say, which was about this guy who's traveling along a road, and this demon kind of whispers to him like, hey, if you will you will have wisdom and all of your enemies will be defeated if you go do this thing. But the reason I want to bring it up, I thought it was real uneven. I was mostly bored while I was watching it. There were a couple of good ones in there, but I would say that it's more like 2 of the 8 are pretty good, and the rest of them were middling to not great.
Yeah. Well, here's a little inside baseball. I rarely do this, and I mean rarely. We didn't finish it. I think we got to like the 6th story, and I am more tolerant with stuff like that. Like, I generally have the curiosity to at least see it through to the end. Brian can only take so much. So
yeah. I don't blame him.
yeah, like, okay, that's it. I'm done. I don't want to do any more of this. And I didn't fight him because I'm like, you're not wrong.
Well, I stuck with it because the last story was Peter Strickland.
Yeah, I didn't know that.
Right.
Okay.
Who did In Fabric most recently.
Right, yeah.
And yeah, so he did the last one, and the last one's really weird and interesting, and it's like a fairy tale about a shoemaker with a foot fetish who wants to marry a princess, and it's just really weird and very Peter Strickland. And that one was pretty good.
There's a series, I think it's on Netflix, that, well, I don't think it was originally released on Netflix. I'm not Netflix, YouTube, but you can find it there. I think it's called On Peter Strickland. Mm-hmm. And it's Peter Strickland just talking about all of his movies in sections. And I watched that a while back. Well, it was like a year ago. I think it was during the last summer series because we were covering a Peter Strickland film. I think it was In Fabric. And so I was just trying to dig up as much as I could. And while I ran across that, I was like, oh, well, let me see what he has to say. And I thought that was pretty interesting. So if anybody out there is like a big Peter Strickland fan, it's definitely worth looking into.
Yeah. I haven't seen that. I should throw that on as well. But so this made me think though, and actually I was watching it. I was like, I know I'm going to talk about this on the next Whatcha Watching. And also, it's not very good, but as I was thinking about that, I wanted to pose this question to you because I think I have a weird answer to this question. But what do you think the best anthologies are? Because like Creepshow gets bandied around quite a bit.
Yeah, I happen to be a huge mark for the Amicus anthologies.
Oh, sure. Like Vault of Horror, Tales from the Crypt.
Vault of Horror, Tales from the Crypt. Yeah, I love those. And Creepshow is, and usually that's kind of, if anybody is making a list or throwing names out, that's going to be at the top. And I can see why, because if you take honestly, I think if you take both Creepshows, I don't think there's a bad sequence in any of them. Some are better than others, but I don't think there are bad ones. I like them all. So
I'm not crazy about Creepshow 2. I know that I'm an outlier.
A lot of people aren't.
Yeah.
No, I think a lot of people don't, and there are solid reasons for it. I mean, it is very different. Apart from the fact that there are only 3 stories versus 5, you're missing the whole Romero connection. There's it doesn't have the same feel that the first one did. I don't think it has the same casting power that the first one did. So, I mean, there are, solid reasons. And I will say that it is lesser than the original, but I still like it quite a bit. But, yeah, I would say probably my favorites are the Amicus ones. I just adore those. Plus anything with Peter Cushing, it just makes me happy. And that one, I want to say, I don't remember exactly which one it's in, where he comes back. He's the guy that they like, I think he ends up committing suicide.
No, yeah, he does. Yeah, he has the little house with his dogs and fixes toys for the kids from the dump and stuff. Yeah, but the
rich people don't like him, and
So some rich assholes down the road are just setting him up to, like, they accuse him of like abusing the children or something, and
like. And it crushes him. And so, but what he comes back as a zombie. And I just think that his zombie makeup, even though it's older, it was like 70, I don't remember if that one was 72 but early 70s. So it's not like Savini zombie makeup or Nicotero zombie makeup, but it's very simple, but I think it's very effective and just creepy as hell. His eyes are all blacked out and it looks just horrifying. So I love that. Plus it's really heartbreaking. That story is just heartbreaking. And then you never know, like Donald Pleasance is going to pop up here and there. I mean, it's just, those are just like food for my soul. I love those.
Yeah, just for the record, that is 72's Tales from the Crypt. Okay. So you were right on point. Yeah, that's a really good one. Let me throw this one at you because I never hear people talk about it in regards to the best anthologies, but I think that it's up there is Cat's Eye.
Oh yeah. Yeah, we actually watched that not too long ago because we're in our C's still. And then I watched a like a YouTube documentary where somebody had gone through all of the individual stories and behind the scenes stuff and everything. That one is super solid.
Yeah, I mean, I think the wraparound story is a little dopey with the troll in the wall. And I think that's kind of the weak link. But I think the Smokers Inc. story is really good.
It's so good.
I like the ledge quite a bit.
Yeah.
I just think it's what's the other story in there? What's the first one?
Isn't the first one Smokers Inc. and then it goes the ledge and then there's the
and then the troll. Is there?
I thought there was a third. Maybe I'm wrong, but I was thinking there were 3 stories apart from the troll story. But
those are the 3. So I think that the troll one, aside from the Carlo Rambaldi troll, which I think looks pretty good, I think that's kind of the weak link there. But both Quitters Inc. and The Ledge are like honest to goodness bangers.
Oh yeah, Quitters Inc. is one of those that it's kind of misleading, its tone, because it seems almost lighthearted at times. It's very funny, because you have him like James Woods trying to hide and smoke, and then you'll see like the jogger going down the street, and somebody will peek their head around a corner, and he's like, "Fuck," because he knows he got caught. But then when you get to the end of that segment, it takes a really dark turn when you find out the other guy's wife has like no fingers.
Yeah. And
I'm like, oh God.
It's just very like those two of the 3 stories are absolutely fantastic. And I think The Ledge with Robert Hayes and all that, I think that one is it's very straightforward, but I really like it. I like the way it's shot, and I like the idea of, hey, you've been cheating with my wife, and I'm not going to hold this against you. All you've got to do is climb out this window and walk around the ledge. And,
but I'm not going to make it easy for you.
Right. And running afoul of like just pigeons and wind and all that stuff. I think that's a cool story. But yeah, I was thinking about it in, on the back end of Field Guide to Evil of like, well, what are the best ones? I'm glad you brought up the Amicus stuff because I didn't think of that right away. And that is good because I watched Tales from the Crypt for the Halloween series last year, and it's terrific. That's a really good anthology. That also has the one about the really materialistic lady who ends up getting in the car crash and whatnot, and All Through the House, or I don't know if it's called All Through the House, but the Santa Killer one I think is in that one.
Yeah, with Joan Collins.
Yeah.
Tales from the Crypt, the show would then do. But yeah, I really like that one. I actually think that that's Brian's favorite. Vault of Horror, I think, is my favorite. But I love them all. And I just think if anybody out there has never watched those, please do.
Oh,
they're completely worth your time. And I'm so excited because I got home today and in the mail was House of Long Shadows on Blu-ray.
Oh, wow.
And I love that movie so much. And so, and I was like, oh, and Brian got it. And I was like, oh, I thought we already owned this. And he's like, nope. Every time we wanted to watch it, I always had to look it up. He's like, but now we have it on Blu-ray. And I'm like, hell yes.
Nice. Okay. I think that's mine. What's next on your list?
Okay. Well, this is another, blast from the past. Well, I guess I haven't really brought up any in the Whatcha Watching, but in as far as we were discussing Amicus and etc. But this is even slightly older than that. I watched Wait Until Dark we went to visit the mother-in-law this weekend, and we always take movies with us. And so Brian had picked up, we watched Red Eye and Wait Until Dark. And I had not watched Red Eye until it came out, since it came out in the theater. And I got to tell you, that movie really holds up. Like that was really fun.
Is that the Wes Craven joint?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I don't know if I've ever seen it. I got to be honest with you, Jamie. I'm going to blow your mind. I've never seen Wait Until Dark.
What? Are you serious?
Yeah. Like I've danced around it so many times. I've just never sat down to watch it.
Oh my God. Watch it.
I know.
It's got my boyfriend, Richard Crenna. I love him.
Uh-huh.
And then obviously Audrey Hepburn, and Alan Arkin is deliciously evil. He is so fucking evil in this movie. And it's, oh God, it's just great. And he has hair, but I highly recommend it. It's on HBO Max. I did discover that because I was mentioning it to another friend of mine, and they're like, "Oh, where can I find that?" And I was like, "Well, we have the disc, but I looked it up and it's on HBO Max. So if you want to watch it, go ahead." I mean, it is it's really good. it's really good, you know. And Audrey Hepburn, her performance in that, because most people I think equate Audrey Hepburn with like romantic stuff or lighthearted stuff. This is very dark, and you know, she plays a blind woman, and I think she does a really, really, really good job. Like she's really good at pulling off the being blind. So yeah, that's I haven't seen that in a long time, and I was really excited to watch it again. So
yeah. That's one that I have almost pulled the trigger on a million times, and just for no good reason have never done so. But I've thought about it a lot lately, weirdly.
Really?
Yeah.
That's weird.
Well,
and that's, you know what, I had too. I'd been wanting to watch it for a couple months. It's been in the back of my brain, and Brian didn't know that. I'd never mentioned it to him. He, when he was picking out movies to take to his mom's, he just grabbed that one, and I was like, "Oh, what are you taking?" And he's like, "Well, Wait Until Dark." And I was like, "What?" I was like, "What kind of voodoo shit is this? How did you know I've been wanting to watch it?"
Yeah. Speaking of Alan Arkin, I got one that also stars Alan Arkin, but is in no way a movie that anyone should see.
Oh.
And that is Minions: The Rise of Gru.
Oh. Did you watch it with the kids?
Yeah, well, with one of them. So here's the thing. I like going to the movies, as you know. Yes. I like the whole experience of it. I like, do too. You know, it's a great time. And so, the last time we went to the movies, aside from when I went to see Nope, the time before that we went to see the new Thor movie. And so my girlfriend was like, "Hey, why don't you just take the boy and you guys go hang out? In fact, why don't you take the boy and you take my dad as well?" And I was like, "All right, well, I don't know that your dad," like, just for context, her father worked for the IMF for many years, traveling all over the world to solve economic problems in other countries. And I was like, it would insult this man's intelligence if he goes to see Minions: The Rise of Gru. Like, he'll never forgive me for this. And fortunately, that she was like, no, he'll be fine. He wants to go. And I knew that was a lie. But fortunately, when I got tickets, there weren't 3 seats together because everybody takes their kids to see this stupid movie. And so I was like, "Hey, your dad's off the hook," because I couldn't find 3 seats, and there was no way that either he or I was going to have to go to some corner of a theater to watch this movie by their lonesome. So it was just me and the boy. He picked the movie, of course, because I was like, "Pick any movie you want, I'll go." Minions: Rise of Gru. I was like, that DC Super Pets is out. I heard that's okay. It's like, no, Minions: Rise of Gru. Great. All right, let's go. So, I am not terribly familiar with the Minion-verse of movies. I saw that first Despicable Me movie, and that's kind of it. And so there are a lot of references to the other Minions movies and the Despicable Me movies that I didn't really get. But it's also such a dopey movie that you couldn't possibly care. And, like, he had a fine time. Like, Minions were dropping their pants and they were farting and talking gibberish. So he had a fine time. But the thing that really bothered me about it is that, like, Alan Arkin is one of the main characters in the movie. And it's just a waste. Like, the whole voice cast is, you know, you've got like Steve Carell and Russell Brand and Taraji P. Henson and Alan Arkin and a number of other very talented actors and voice actors. And it's just a waste of time. Like, you know, I was talking about this with Duncan where, you know, Pixar and Disney kind of have it right where it's most of those movies, they're not all perfect, but that most of them have a pretty good tight story. There is stuff in those movies for the parents as well as the kids.
Right.
And the example we used was like Finding Nemo, which is like on one level for kids, it's about a fish that gets lost and it's really colorful. And, you know, Ellen DeGeneres' fish is really funny because she's forgetful and stuff. But if you're an adult, that movie is about like finding that point where you let your child grow up and start to make their own decisions and become their own person. And also about loss, you know, of that, those feelings of wanting to protect a child so much that it sort of inhibits their growth. And so there's stuff in it to appeal to the adults in the crowd. And, you know, same with like Up and, you know, I mean, no matter what age you are, the first like 10 minutes of Up will reduce you to tears. Minions Rise of Gru doesn't care about any of that shit. They are not trying to appeal to anybody but the children in the crowd who are amused by these minions getting bonked on the head by boards. And like I said, it's just a whole lot of... There was so much butt crack in that movie. I saw so much minion butt crack.
And don't they, without clothes, wouldn't they just look like Twinkies?
Well, I don't know, because you don't see
Twinkies with a butt crack.
You don't see them in the all together, but you definitely see them with just showing their ass. So they definitely have buttocks and an anus. So
you saw the anus?
You didn't see the anus, but if you've got a cleft in your cheeks, there is a reason for it.
Okay, that makes sense.
There is an evolutionary reason for that. So yeah, it was just, and on the way out, he was like, he's so funny. He was like, you know, that movie could have been better. It should have been a little bit longer for one thing, because it was really short. And I was like, it was short. I don't know that was the problem. But he was like, yeah, you know, it was good. It was good. It wasn't my favorite Minions movie, but it was good. I was like, oh, we're going to have to get you checked out, kid.
Well, this is also the kid that doesn't like horror, so.
This is true. Yeah. Meanwhile, his sister is almost done with Stranger Things, has not even bothered anymore with watching it with us. She's just like, I'm going to finish Stranger Things. I'm like, all right, you know, go with God. But that when that Poltergeist 4K comes out, she's watching Poltergeist this year.
Awesome.
Yeah.
I'm so excited. I'm just excited. I don't even know her, and I'm so excited.
Her mom's going to be so mad at me. Oh, I mean, it's going to give her...
It's a good one, though.
It's really good. And she's kind of the right age where, like, if she gets through all of Stranger Things, it's like, that's kind of baby's first horror show. And now it's like, okay, you know, it's almost that Aykroyd thing of you want to see something really scary. So we're going to try it. And like I said, she could have a bunch of nightmares, and then her mom's going to be real pissed at me and tell me that I can't show movies to her daughter anymore. But yeah, no, the boy just is not interested at all. And so he's like, you know, I'm not scared, is how he puts it. I'm not afraid. It's just, I don't like what I see in those. And I'm like, that's being scared, kid. That's, you know, I get it. There are movies that scare me, not as many as I would like, but it does happen. And I don't like what my eyes see in those movies, but that's the joy of it. Anyway, so that's my horrible Minions experience.
Hey, do you comb your butt?
Do I comb my butt?
Yeah.
What are you talking about?
Just answer the question.
No.
Then why does it have a part in it?
Oh my God.
That was my third grade. That was why they're great best friend's favorite joke.
I will repeat it. Don't even kid yourself. Those kids will eat it up. Anything that has to do with the word butt, they love.
Exactly. That is exactly why I shared it with you, because I want you to be able to take something away.
I appreciate it. Here's one for all the, the caregivers of children out there. Take that joke with you. Put it in your pocket.
Okay. So, you're a big found footage fan.
Oh, I am.
And as am I. And I don't know, have you seen the Andy Baker tape?
I have not. I've gotten some emails about that. How is it?
Yeah. Well, we watched it because Brian got emails about it.
Sure. Yeah.
So, but it is actually available if anybody wants to watch it. It's on, well, hell, Tubi, and Tubi has a huge found footage collection. But it, honestly, I was so in it. And then I kind of feel like they didn't know what to do with the end. But if you are a fan of Creep, I think you'll get I got some Creep vibes out of it. And you don't know where the creep van, you don't know. Yeah, we still do that around anytime anybody says the word creep or van, that's coming out of our mouth.
I think of you saying that at least once a week.
Aw, that's so sweet.
Is it?
Yeah, I mean, I think so.
Okay.
I'm taking that as a good thing.
All right.
Non-devour people out there are going, what the hell are you talking about?
Yeah, right.
But you don't know where it's going and you don't know why, but it's one of those movies that you just get like a really uneasy feeling throughout the whole thing, and you don't really know what's going to end up happening. And that part I really, really like. Like, I was totally there. I was on the ride. And I just feel like when they got to the end, they didn't really know what to do. And that always disappoints me. But I would say it's worth it just because of the performances of the idea is that there are these two brothers, they're half brothers. And one of them is a YouTube star who is, he's like a chef, and he's been offered a show on the Food Network. So he is going, he's kind of going around the country and filming some things. And while he's doing that, he has hooked up, thanks to, I think they call it 23 and Ancestry or something, like they mix the two together. So like, right. Instead of, it's funny, but instead of 23 and Me and Ancestry, it's like 23 Ancestry or 23 and it's something stupid. But anyway, he, because of that, discovers that he has a half brother that he didn't know about. So while he's on the road, he makes a point to go and get to know him. And then, but they end up kind of traveling some together. And there's just, there's some uneasiness. There's some, where's this going? You know, which one, somebody's got to have something wrong with him. Which one is it? You know, that kind of thing. And, yeah, I really enjoyed the performances of the two brothers. I thought they came across, just very natural, and the whole thing is kind of up and down at times. Like, you're like, oh, that's a little crazy, or, oh, now that's a little crazy. So it was a fun ride. I just feel like when we get to the end, it was a little bit of a letdown, but still think it was worth it because I enjoyed everything up to that point. So I would say it's worth your time.
Okay. I wonder if I can still get a screener. Probably. But
if not, it's on Tubi. So...
all right. Do I want to talk about the Tubi movie? Yeah, let me just pay my respects to Tubi with this one. Because I'm probably, you and I are probably in the same boat where we both watch Tubi more than people should. Yeah.
I mean, we're pretty much name checking it at some point on our show every time. We're like, by the way, if you don't have Tubi, you know.
So I watched a movie on Tubi. It was either Tubi or Plex one of the two. But this movie called Extraterrestrial, which came out, it's by the Vicious Brothers, who did, oh crap, what was the movie that they did?
Is that the one? Oh, the Vicious Brothers did Grave Encounters.
That's right. Yeah.
Is that the one where they kind of steal from The Thing and The Fly and like all, like... I remember a movie, like an alien movie, where it just, while you're watching it, you see where they pulled a bunch of stuff from a bunch of different movies, but it could be a different thing. But.
I didn't see any The Fly in this. But yeah, I'll tell you, it's got the, I think the Vicious Brothers also may have done this, but anyway, do you remember the lady who played the lead in It Stains the Sands Red?
Oh yeah, she was also in that one, it was not a slasher movie, but it was like a lesbian couple. One of them's trying to kill the other one in the woods.
What Keeps You Alive?
Yeah. I think she was in that too.
Yeah.
Isn't she?
I think that's right. So, yeah, and she's pretty good.
Yeah.
But so she's in this, and it's basically every movie about aliens you ever saw, where a bunch of kids go to a remote place where there has been some UFO activity and they run afoul of some aliens. Here, what I will say about the movie is that for far too much of its runtime, it is exactly what I described, which is, there are some aliens afoot, they're running around, they run into aliens every now and again, there's bright lights, everybody's screaming, stuff like that. And it's okay. It's what I would call barely acceptable UFO movie material. The one thing I'll say about it is there's a point in the movie where, spoilers for a movie that I'm not really recommending, but if you want to see a movie about aliens, then, skip ahead 30 seconds. But at the end of the movie, the main characters get abducted, and you actually see the inside of the ship and where they go. And I was like, oh, well, this is at least something. This is a pretty bold choice for the movie to make. But then there's not enough of that to make it worth your time. Like, that part of it is interesting, but it's like, okay, here's an hour and 40-minute movie. There are 20 minutes of it that are interesting. Not great, but interesting, and pretty brave for a movie like this compared to a lot of other movies that do or use a similar plot device and a similar story. So it's kind of a cut above most of these movies, but most of these movies are kind of trash. So this is a cut above trash. But I at the end of the day, I was like, this is, when I rated it, it was like a flat, like 2.5 out of 5. Cause I was like, there are things I respect about this movie, but there is no chance I'm ever going to watch it again.
Yeah, I want to say, I'm pretty sure I've seen it. It came out several years ago, right?
Yeah, it's not quite 10 years old. It came out in 2014.
I think it's the one I'm thinking of, and I don't remember why I was thinking of The Fly, but something in the movie made me think of The Fly. But I'm not honestly a fan of alien movies on the whole, like alien abduction type movies. There are a couple that I really like, but as a rule, you're not gonna, like, they don't blow my doors off,
I kind of like them. I'm trying to find the one. I think it might have even just been called Alien Abduction, but there's one that's pretty good. That's about a family, and it's a found footage style that uses the same devices, plot devices, and I thought that one was pretty good. And so I think I'm kind of chasing the dragon to find that one alien abduction movie that's really what I want to see, and no one has quite given it to me yet.
There's one that I absolutely love. It's called, I can't remember the name. It's something like Changed or Altered. Did you ever see Altered?
I feel like I have. Let me look it up.
It's where a guy was abducted a long time ago, and he's back now, and he's like terrified of everything. But then one of the aliens comes back, and so he kind of captures it, and his plan is to torture it, pretty much because of all the torture that they did to him. Only his friends get involved, and it's like in his garage, and there's And there is one particular scene. And he discovers that when they abduct you, they put a little tracking device in you that's like a little ticker, and it's really horrifying because it's organic and it looks like little claws, and it's just like like inside your body, so they know where you are and they wrap it around your guts, and it's just awful. But there's one particular scene in that film that every time I watch it, and I've seen it probably like 4 times, every time I watch it, it just gives me the willies to no end. Like, it is so fucking scary. And that is probably one of my favorite, other than like Dark Skies. And I do really like Dark Skies. And what's the other one? Why is there there's a dead guy on the ship? Why is there a dead guy on the ship? Fire in the Sky.
Oh yeah.
So like, other than Fire in the Sky, I do really like Dark Skies, even though that's pretty much like Poltergeist, but with aliens. This one is one that I find genuinely scary and really entertaining. So if you have never seen it, I do recommend checking it out. And I think it's from one of the
Blair Witch boys.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I was just about to say. I think it's one of the Blair Witch guys that did it. So
yeah, Eduardo Sanchez. Yeah, I think I have seen this, but it's been a long time. I need to revisit that because maybe that's the movie that I've been chasing all these years, and I just need to go back and watch that again.
Give it a rewatch and let me know. It's totally good.
Fire in the Sky is pretty good. It's a pretty good movie.
I like that one.
Yeah.
I like that one.
I want to like The Fourth Kind more than I do.
I was just thinking not too long ago, I need to watch that again. But, because that's the one...
With Mia Jovovich?
Yeah, okay. Yeah. I did see that. I remember thinking there were some issues with it, but I was like, then recently somebody was talking about it, and I was like, I really need to watch it again, because I kind of feel like I should like it more than I do. But
yeah, every time I've seen it like 3 times now, and every time I finish it, I'm like, I don't think that's as good as I want it to be. And then
see, I hate when that happens.
Right, and then time will go by, and I'm like, but did I like it? And then you watch it again, you're like, I don't think I really liked it that much.
I have so many movies that do that to me. And I'm like, well, let me try it again. Oh, no, that's why. Yeah, no, I don't like that movie.
Yeah, trickster movies that are always tricking you into thinking that you like them more than you do. And, but yeah, so I may watch that tomorrow, actually. I may go back and watch Afflicted very shortly.
Altered. You know Afflicted's good.
Oh, yeah. It's, hey, these found footage movies.
I know. Well, I was like, what's the name of it? Changed, Affected? Oh, no, Altered.
Yeah, so you want to do yourself a favor. You do a double feature of Altered and Afflicted.
Yeah, then you cover both. And
yeah, you got aliens and
really
vampires.
Doesn't really matter what the title is.
Yeah, everything from A to B. All right. What else you got here?
Well, we just talked about aliens, and you just briefly mentioned vampires, but how about some witches?
Ooh.
Because we watched Hellbender on Shudder.
Oh, that movie rocks. I love it.
It slaps. I was so in love with everything about that movie, including the soundtrack. I thought the soundtrack was fantastic. The performances were so good. And I know I've seen that mother somewhere else. I can't put my finger on it, but I've seen her in something else. And I loved it. And then when we got to the end, I was like, wow, that was really good. And Brian was like, well, that was abrupt. And I'm like, yeah, but they made their point. Like, it was abrupt, but they said what they came to say. And now, they don't need to go any farther. So I like it when a movie knows that, hey, we've done our job. We can just stop. So right. I loved it. I think it's definitely going to probably it will be somewhere on my list, I'm sure, because I enjoyed the hell out of it.
I'm in the same boat with you. As soon as you said that, the first thing I thought was, oh, this is almost assuredly going to be on my top 10 list at the end of the year. I thought Hellbender was fantastic. I thought it was all the things you said. It's got a great soundtrack. It's got great energy. It is it's a fascinating story, and there are the makings of this really sweet film about a mother and daughter in there, but it just goes oh so wrong.
Yeah, and it's so allegorical.
Yeah.
I mean, it's beautiful in that, you know, you have this mother who is trying so hard to protect her daughter, not from the you find out not from the outside, but more protecting the outside from her daughter because she knows what her daughter is. And then when her daughter does discover what she is, then her mom kind of goes on this journey with her, trying to teach her about what she is and how they, and then that scene where they just are tripping balls on maggots. And anybody who hasn't seen the movie, that makes no sense. But I just, that is just a fantastic scene. And so you think, wow, they're really bonding here. They're, you know, this is going to be great. And then you get to the end and it ends pretty much like real life mother-daughter.
Yeah. You know, here's the thing I didn't know until just this second. That Zelda Adams, who plays the main character Izzy, and Toby Poser, who plays her mother in the movie, real life mother and daughter.
Really?
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Well, that explains the chemistry then, because I thought that they worked beautifully off each other.
Yeah. You know, some of my favorite scenes in that movie have nothing to do with the horror stuff. It's just them jamming together.
Yes.
And it's like, oh, this is so cool.
I love that they have a band where they put on makeup and they get all theatrical and they don't do anything with it. They just play for each other. Yeah. They just jam together. And that's just great. And there are so many awkward moments with the girl because she's never been exposed to other people. She doesn't know how to interact with other people. So there are some really great moments with her and some, you know, like her new friends and, you know, how that goes poorly. I cannot say enough about it. I really, really loved it. And when Brian did his write-up on Facebook about it, or no, I think it was, I don't remember if it was Facebook or Twitter, but one of those, the filmmaker contacted him.
Oh, no kidding.
And they were like, hey man, that was really cool. Thank you. Cause it was positive,
sure.
You know? And, so I thought that was really cool, you know? So
yeah, that rocks. Yeah. And well-deserved. I mean, that movie is like I said, you know, I agree with you. This is probably going to be a, end of the year. This will be on my top 10 list because, just thinking about it has me like, man, I should watch that again. That movie is not 90 minutes long. And it just, you know, bang, bang, bang. And it's really good. It's super indie. It's one of those movies that when it hit Shudder, it was like, well, this is why, you know, you have a Shudder subscription is for movies like this. Like there's a lot of indie stuff that hit Shudder that is not great, but movies like this that are just not ever going to get, a lot of notoriety elsewhere. Yeah, Hellbender is so good. Yeah. All right. I got one more, and then if you want to do another, we will. But this is not a movie or a TV show. This is a play. So take that.
Oh, that's right. You went to a play Sunday night.
I did. I went to see To Kill a Mockingbird.
Oh.
With Atticus Finch, played by Richard Thomas, Bill Denbrough himself, or John Boy Adams, depending on how old you are. And
both work for me.
Yes.
Sadly.
So it was, here's the it's the touring company of it. Like Jeff Daniels did it on Broadway, which I would have killed to see. Especially, probably the biggest drawback of the play was that the entire time we were watching it, and we talked about this later, that both of us kept thinking like, man, can you imagine Jeff Daniels in this role?
Oh, poor Richard Thomas.
Poor Richard. Richard Thomas was great. You know, I don't want to undersell him. He did a great job, but Jeff Daniels is Jeff Daniels, and you know,
yeah,
he's just amazing. So, it would be like if you saw, I'm trying to think of an equivalent actor. If you, well, I was going to say Michael K. Williams, but he has sadly passed away. But like, let's say he was going to be Atticus Finch, and they were like, yeah, on Broadway it was Denzel Washington, and you're like, ugh. I mean, I love Michael K. Williams, but
right.
So anyway, It's written by Aaron Sorkin, who did this adaptation.
Nice.
Who, if listeners aren't aware, he's the guy who wrote A Few Good Men and The American President and The West Wing and The Newsroom and just a million different things. And a very, very good writer. And,
speaking of Michael K. Williams.
Yeah.
Sorry. Boardwalk Empire.
Oh, is he? Oh, yeah.
Yes. He has a huge role. His name is Chalky White.
Oh, okay. Chalky White's funny.
But he has a huge role in that. So if you are a fan of Michael K. Williams, then I'm sad he's gone. But
yeah. Oh, of course.
He's excellent. But sorry, go ahead. I just thought about that when you said his name.
Yeah, so it was really interesting, surprise, surprise, in Aaron Sorkin's hands. To Kill a Mockingbird becomes much more of a courtroom drama than it is anything else.
Mm-hmm.
It ignores a lot. Not ignores it. It's only got 2 hours to do what the book does over several hundred pages. So but it's really, really good. It was surprisingly funny, or I shouldn't have been surprised because it's Aaron Sorkin. Right? Yeah. But it's very funny. It's occasionally irreverent. It had this really great staging device where Jim and Scout and Dill, the three, children in the movie or in the story, are kind of narrating the play and moving through the courtroom and occasionally stopping and sort of commenting on what's happening. And so it was a really interesting kind of dramatic device for the play to use, and it was really good. There's the big speech when the closing argument that Atticus gives in the trial was really good. If you are in any semi-major city, that play is touring right now, and you ought to do yourself a favor and go check it out when it comes close, because it was a great time. It was really well done. Like I said, surprisingly funny. It was really entertaining and very emotional. Like the end of that play is quite good, and managed to stick the landing on Scout saying, "Why, hey, Boo." And you're like, oh, my heart's breaking. Yeah, it was very good.
That book tore me up when I was a kid.
Oh yeah, it's a wonderful. But I'll tell you, we had a real a commentator behind us that was like, well, this is just dumbed down. This isn't like the book. And it's like, it's a play. It's an adaptation of the book. Of course, it's different from the book because it's got to fit into 2 hours. And it's drama. It's not a book, There are things that are changed, like the rabid dog is not in the play because how on earth are you going to do that on a stage? And yeah, it just there were a handful of things that this woman just would not shut the hell up about, and it really pissed me off. But I thought it was great, and I agree. The book is amazing. I love it a lot. And
yeah, that was one of my favorite books when I was growing up.
Yeah, for me too. Yeah, and my girlfriend hasn't seen the movie since like 10th grade, and she was like, "Yeah, we had to watch it for class, and I've never tried to watch it since." And I was like, "Oh, just as an adult, we ought to watch that because the movie's fantastic."
What'd you think?
We haven't watched it yet. We're still trying to find.
Oh, okay. But yeah. Did she love the play?
She did. She had a great time with it as well. During intermission, both of us were like, "This is good." Here are the things that they've changed and the things that they're doing that are a little bit different. And then by the end of the play, both of us were like, "Oh, that was fantastic." So,
man, I'm looking it up right now, and it is not coming to Michigan. I'm so sad.
Oh, that is a shame. I know a buddy of mine. Andy, that I've mentioned on several shows before, he saw the matinee and we saw the evening show, so we both saw it on the same day but at different times, and he was of the same mind. He said he thought it was great as well. So yeah, terrific
going
movie.
to fucking Minnesota, but it's not coming here. What the hell?
what are you going to do? I guess it's wherever, Richard Thomas wants to go.
I guess.
Yeah, it's terrific. A lot of good performances in it too. A lot of good performances. So, Richard Thomas being one of them. So yeah, if it does come near you, you ought to go see it. It's great. Cool. All right, you got something else to wrap us up here?
Let me see. Let me go back to my old Letterboxd.
No, you sound surprised.
I was trying to see. Oh, well, just I guess the only other thing that I haven't really mentioned was Deathline, which I actually watched it because we're covering it on this recent episode that is about to come out. But what made me think of that earlier was I mentioned Donald Pleasance, and he is so good in this movie. Have you seen Deathline?
I feel like wait, this
has an alternate title of Raw Meat.
Yes, I have seen this. Yes.
Donald Pleasance plays this really quirky police detective who is just constantly screaming about his tea, and but he's just really funny in it. And Christopher Lee has a very brief cameo as an MI5 that gets involved for like 2 seconds, and it's just. Honestly, it is a better movie than you would think it was. When you're talking about like a Subway version of Sonny Bean where they're eating people, but it looks beautiful. Gary Sherman directed it, who also directed Vice Squad. Mm-hmm. And there was another movie that he did, right around the same time. His first 3 movies were all bangers. Like, this was his very first movie. Then he followed it up with Vice Squad. Then there was something else. I can't remember what it was. But it was just like bam, bam, bam. Like, just, okay, not so bam, bam, bam. Because this one was 1972, and he didn't make Vice Squad until 81 or 82?
82? Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, so it was like 10 years between his first and second movie, so it wasn't all that bang, 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 but it was his first 3 movies all really good. And then he did Poltergeist 3, which I don't love, but I do love his use of mirrors in that movie. I think he did a really phenomenal job with playing with reflections, and so that was really fun. But as far as Deathline goes, I just was blown away by the cinematography, there are some really amazing shots. At one point when we were watching it, I was like, and I've seen it before, but this one I was really paying attention because we're going to be talking about it. Mm-hmm. And at one point I was just like, and they held on this shot that's in the sewers and it's just lit beautifully. The shadows, it looks gorgeous. And I was like, I guarantee you they were so proud of that shot. Mm-hmm. Like I bet you when they were watching the dailies, they were like, that's a really good shot because it was gorgeous. But it also has a 7-minute tracking shot in this film that is unbroken. And apparently they had to choreograph it. It took a whole day to choreograph the shot. And then it took a whole second day to get it down. And the whole time, the producer was like, well, what if it doesn't work? What if it doesn't work? And Gary Sherman's like, no, I want this shot. I need this shot. I got to get this shot. And he did. And it's beautiful. And it worked beautifully. So that is just one. I love the movie, but because I just love cannibal movies. But if you, if that kind of thing doesn't interest you, then I say check this one out anyway, because it's 1972 London. So I have a huge soft spot for late 60s, early 70s London. Don't ask me why, I just do. And it just captures that so well. The colors are just gorgeous. It is so much better than you would think the synopsis would lead you to believe it was. And it's always a treasure. It's just a joy for me to watch that movie. So
yeah, that's super fun.
Yeah, and it's kind of sad too, because I'm kind of torn, because the guy that lives in the subway, like, he's not really evil, he just doesn't know. Like, they've been living down there for generations, ever since this like, I don't know what the deal is, but like when they were building the tube station and there was a cave in, they just said, fuck it, and left 12 people buried alive down there. And they're just like, like, wait, great job, London. And so they've been living down there since the 20s. And so like 50 years, these people have been living and breeding. And so there's, they're inbred cannibals living in a subway station. But
as happens sometimes, yeah.
I feel bad for him because he's not trying to be evil. He just doesn't know any other way. So,
but he's also eating people
yeah.
So, but, not entirely yeah, sure, he doesn't know any better, but
but no, it doesn't make it okay.
Yeah.
And it's not okay. It gives it depth. It gives it a little another layer, and I can always appreciate that.
It's the frog and scorpion thing of like, hey, just come down to my tunnel. I won't eat you. And then you get down there and he eats it, and you're like, you said you wouldn't.
Well, what'd you think?
Yeah. What'd you think? I'm an inbred cannibal.
Yeah. Yeah.
Wasn't his father a doctor? Wasn't that the thing? Like,
what? That.
Maybe I'm thinking of another cannibal movie that takes place in
there's
the underground. Maybe. Is that yeah, you're right. That's the one where it was a doctor that had this child that was kept down there. Yeah.
And they abandoned they were like doing experiments or something.
Yeah.
And abandoned him, and then he's just stuck down there by himself.
Yep. Okay. Similar to Raw Meat.
We actually brought that up when we were talking about it because that is one of Brian's favorite movies. Because it's was it Christopher Smith or I don't know I can't remember who made that movie. I don't remember if it was Christopher Smith or
Creep
somebody
Cannibal.
Creep Subway.
It is no wrong Creep. Hang on. Turns out there's a million movies called Creep now. With Christopher Smith.
Oh, look at me, hot damn.
Yeah. Who did Triangle and Severance and
yes. Yeah.
Yeah. Black Death, which I wasn't crazy about.
Hey, I am a defender of that movie.
I should watch it. I remember like losing interest along the way.
And I can kind of see why, but I think if you give it another shot, you might, I don't know, like it's a good folk horror movie.
Yeah.
So
all right, I think that's gonna wrap us up. We went a little long, but that's how we do.
Hey, they only get it once a month.
Yeah.
They'll live.
So where can people catch you in the meantime, between now and the next time we chat?
Well, if you're not listening to me here, you can listen to me on Horror in the House of Salmons, which is on Anchor, and which means it can be found anywhere. And when I'm not doing that, I'm doing this, or I just finished my second run on the summer series, so that'll be coming out in a few weeks. And that was a lot of fun.
Yeah. I listened to the first episode you did. I haven't listened to the second one yet.
Oh, God, the audio on my end was so bad. I felt so horrible. I'm just like, I'm sorry, Duncan. Like, I didn't realize it was that bad. It was so bad.
Well.
Like, I was cutting out quite a bit. And although that might be a blessing to some people, hey, I don't know. Maybe they're just like, oh, thank God, interrupt that bitch.
Just like Merlin. A dream to some, a nightmare to others.
Yes. Yeah, there are people out here who only listen to this show for you and mute it when I'm talking.
That is 100% not true. The only reason I do this is to get the sweet downloads that you bring with you.
Oh, please! I should have been put out to pasture years ago.
You and me both, sister.
I'm gonna be coming down the stairs. I'm ready for my close-up.
I'll just be floating in the pool outside.
Yay!
All right, guys. We'll be back in a week with more of the Dark Parade, and in a month with more What You Watching. So that's it for this time. Say goodnight, Jamie.
Good night, Jamie. By the way, that wasn't yay to you floating in the pool. It was yay to you. I love it because you always get my references.
I know what it was a yay for.